my energy work is around stories. So with a story that I don't have enough support, then it doesn't matter how much support I call it. And if I have a story I don't have enough support, it will never be enough support.
Hello, and welcome to the Fuck Suffering Podcast. I'm your hostess, Ray Hance. I'm a writer, gardener, guide, hostess of this podcast, obviously, and also Fuck Suffering practice groups, boundaries and belonging one-day sessions, and a pocket coaching program that I do via WhatsApp for people who just, want what they want, when they want it, where they're at. I actually am surprised at how effective coaching via voice memos and text could be. I was a little suspicious of that at first, but now it's probably my favorite program. Today I have on a colleague, and whenever that happens, I'm just reminded about how much I love this work and how crazy it is that after my early life as an actress and then as a cannabis grower and a memoirist and a teacher of memoir, I have an herbalist. I've worn many hats and had many moltings. And I am surprised to find myself living in the great state of Maine doing this deeply satisfying and joy-bringing work. So if you're interested in working with me, you can come to rayhance.com. That's REIHANCE.com. And we'll see if we're a fit. Not everybody's a fit. It's like there's a lot of good people in the world, but not everybody's a good match. But when I'm a good match for you, we can really make some magic happen. Today's guest is also in the same line of helping work. And we talk about competitiveness and online marketing, selling to pain. Oh, a little too effective and nausea-making. Grandmother's heart, trauma alchemy, surrender and collapse, perfectionism, all the things. And what is our guest's question for the I Ching this week? What keeps me from receiving? So what question is most alive for you out of the two that you brought in?
Yeah. I can feel the emotion rising up as I wrote it down. How and why, well, there are two questions are linked, but this is the one that's the hottest. How and why am I holding myself back in receiving more money and more clients? Which is interesting that I chose that one. It feels like the receiving energy definitely wants to be looked at. And of course it ties into my business itself and me being seen. But the receiving felt really big.
So are you, do you feel like you're holding back in receiving in other areas?
Oh.
Like health or love?
Oh. Not in love. I'm like so blessed. My eyes have started to have some interesting things happening. And I know that there's like things this time of life. I turned 50 last year, blah, blah, blah. I've had vision things my whole life. I got glasses when I was like 6. But feels connected somehow.
Okay. What your body's able to bring in, the information, the contact with the world. And are you feeling pretty stable in your body?
Right this second, I'm feeling a lot of emotion, like a lot of energy flowing. Overall, is that which did you mean?
In this moment.
In this moment, I can ground back into holding it. But it does feel a little bit like there's a fire hose waiting.
Good.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah, well, noticing the leaks is half the battle, isn't it? It's like it makes it not a battle once you notice them.
Yeah.
There
And
is no
thinking like,
battle.
yeah. And just as we're talking, I'm seeing the different viewpoint of like running around fixing leaks. Like I just got like the mental picture of a boat or a house with a leaky roof, and you've got like you're putting out all the pots versus like creating and claiming a badass roof or creating and claiming a totally rockin' boat. Yeah, I can feel the difference of those folks.
Yeah, instead of like tearing up the gown you wore to the Oscars that time and stuffing it in the holes. You know?
I do like that you saw me at the Oscars.
Yeah. You know, and it's just like, and then not like pretending that those reversals of fortune are not part of the process, you know?
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And that was, I actually had a really powerful conversation with colleague woman yesterday. And, you know, part of my business has been expanding into a music side that
Cool.
Yeah. So before I became a coach, I was an Emma classical professional cellist.
Oh,
And,
wow.
yeah. And I've always kept it. I don't know. It was always separate. And then one of my gorgeous, witchiest friends was like, would you do like some kind of like, I don't know, weird, cool cello shit with my clients? And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. So you have big receptivity channels open. Yeah. So where's the hairball?
I'm nodding, which I'm remembering this is a podcast, so I'm going to say something.
The invitation is always open to take out anything that you're uncomfortable with later.
Oh, I don't
Okay.
mind. I'm like sitting here nodding and then
yeah. Oh yeah. That's
okay. uh, yeah, I think it just brought us back to the leaks and to the what's my boat and to like I know through music that it's not just the notes, it's how you play them. And I care so much. I guess that I want to be heard and I want you to feel heard, and that like cultivating and honoring and loving the space of this like truly sacred unfolding of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it needs to get loud, and sometimes it needs to have wrong notes, and sometimes it needs to be almost, you know, more beautiful than we can bear. And
sit with that for a second.
Yeah.
Where does that meet the thick spot between your heart and your throat?
That my practice of that was 45 years of cultivating and curating in the practice room before I brought it to concert.
And in your business now, there's a little more room for minimal viable product and a little bit more room for the feminine chaos.
Yes.
And surrendering to that can be, and surrendering to
come
that.
Into my practice room.
Yeah. Like that love of precision is so valuable in music, but also like you're saying, it is how you play it. Like it's the letting go of that precision once you've embodied it.
Yeah.
That trust. That's genius, is that trust that in flamenco, there's this concept of duende where the dancer is danced. and the spirit comes through you. And that's where that shouting of Ole comes from in flamenco. It comes from the Moorish invasion of Spain when it's saying Allah. So I see God in you. I see God coming through you. I no longer see just you. I see God coming through you. And that's true in music and coaching, I find. Getting out of the way and letting other people get out of the way and then allowing the magic to happen. That release of preference and precision and perfection.
Yeah. So I love that you said hairball. It feels like something I am being waiting instead of claiming what wants to come through me. I need to care less in some ways about what anybody thinks, and I'm having trouble letting go as I know that it's my caring that's also creating my desire.
Well, are you caring about the process or are you caring about the outcome?
Exactly.
I'm
feeling my care of the outcome.
Yeah.
And I have something where when I don't, and maybe this is just part of letting it be, but there's like I'll the current spiritual tool, I'll download something or I'll just like write and then I'll share it and I love it and it's amazing and nobody reads it. Nobody gives a fuck.
Right.
And then like my post yesterday, I don't know, it felt kind of like the same energy. The only tuning tweak I did that was different was I listened for like what personal, I really had it be a personal story. And then I just shared through that and people loved it. And that felt like a relief. And it's not the point, and it's the point.
Ooh, say more about that. That's a good spot.
The point isn't my ego like relief at being seen, even as the point is to let my things be heard.
Right. Right. The peony doesn't pat itself on the back because bees come.
They're my favorite flower.
Mine too. And my favorite metaphor, because my God, they're so meaty and juicy, and like the way they open is so fearless and fragrant and full and meaty. And their essence permeates everywhere visually, their fragrance, that can be so delicate and potent at the same time. They are such a pure expression of the feminine.
And I am both willing to be fearless to go first. And I'm feeling with this perfection how I haven't been, how I feel like I've been on my edge and yet I haven't. And it's my desire for the work with my clients to expand their possibility.
Well, you know how a peony teeters right on that edge of collapse. So full.
Yeah.
Almost.
They even have special peony cages.
You need peony hoops, right? Exactly. So that's the other thing I love about the peonies is like allowing that brink and trusting the hoop, trusting that inner masculine, or if you're lucky enough, an outer masculine to help provide that structure so that you can be in full radiant bloom fearlessly.
Yeah.
And fragrantly. And that magnetism can just permeate. The peony is never afraid of its own beauty.
that's my wish, to enjoy her beauty, enjoy my experience of it, and let the bees come as they will. Mm-hmm. And it's really big work sometimes. All the time.
Is it though? Is it big work, or is it a big surrender of the idea that it's work?
Yeah, absolutely. Like putting something down.
Yeah.
Is really, really, really simple and easy. And then I turn around and I picked it up again. And then I turn around and I picked it up again. And then I turn around and I picked it up again.
Yep.
I'm an Enneagram 3, which I hate. Everyone's like, oh, that's the worst one. You have like your essence of your being is striving to be proven through others. And I'm like, oh, shit.
Do you know what your human design is?
Yeah, I've been really loving human design lately.
Me too.
Oh my God. And I love that it calls itself the grand experiment. Like, just add that tagline to fucking everything.
Everything, exactly.
Everything.
Are you a projector?
No, I'm a Manny Jenny. Everything is defined except for I lose like the two triangles on the right side. So I think that's
You're emotional?
And the emotional. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm technically not emotional. My sacral authority, 5-1. So I'm the heretical investigator. And my I Ching of I am here to discover myself. Which, hello.
Exactly. Yeah.
and I've been examining the Mercury, right? Because that's how we express in the world. And mine is, interestingly, to retreat, but that fits with discovering yourself, letting yourself breathe in before you breathe out, to come back to yourself before you give again. It both resonates, and the cycle of that feels and that I know when I'm out of my design, when I'm frustrated, I'm like, yeah, pretty much every 3 days, like clockwork.
Yeah.
What's your? Well, that's interesting. You thought I was a projector. What's yours? What are you?
A 3-5. 3-5 regular generator. Mm. Yeah. Also open emotional center, open throat, or undefined throat, undefined lots of things. Okay, that whole right side.
Yeah, my throat is defined. Like, it should be a regular source of energy. So it feels like that, like, there may be manifesting of like how I share myself, but it doesn't feel like that's the actual block. It does feel like it's something to do with the never-ending loop of proving myself.
Would you say it's like practice degenerating into drill?
You had me up until drill.
Like practice becoming drill, like
a habit,
like the kind of like rigor of practicing cello for so many years being applied to this work. Mm.
Yeah, I am getting better at remembering. But the frustration is just the frustration. It doesn't actually mean the world's ending.
Right. I had a moment of that this morning.
And also the lie that I won't have those feelings if I only had my desires.
like, oh, I've become such a good metabolizer, and I have, but it doesn't mean that things don't stick around as long, but they all still come, and they're all like, the more I welcome them, the faster they nourish, and come back out as nourishment for others instead of becoming like a source of constipation. Like, to me, that's the whole of the practice, is not that things stop happening. It's that it's the way I meet them. Yeah. Like becoming like a billy goat, where there's finding the nourishment in a Dixie cup. Absorbing what nourishes and shitting out the rest. Yeah. So do you have your 3 coins? There's a segue. The segue always arrives. I trust it.
I picked Canadian ones.
Oh, nice. You got some toonies there?
Oh, these are loonies.
Loonies? Oh, it's been a while since I've been in Canada.
Yeah, that felt fun.
Fun. Nice. So let's actually, sometimes I like to make hone a question toward more specificity, but I think in your case, let's actually open it up a little bit to this, how and why am I holding myself back from receiving?
Yeah.
And the business part of it is just going to be one leg, but let's look at the systemic picture.
Yeah.
The I Ching is so good at getting to the root like that.
Love it.
Yeah. So just think about that question, and even receive the energy of the coins in your hands, and let there be an exchange between your hands and the coins, and the frequency that you're kind of sitting in right now, and just feel that in the coins, and feel the weight of the coins in your hands. And we're going to gently shake them, and we're going to throw all 3 coins 6 times. And every time you throw them, you're going to tell me how many heads and how many tails.
Oh my gosh. Just heard the hilarious thought. Did I do it right?
I always find it fun how many people come in from that space when it's like literally throwing, like it's absolutely just allowing random to speak its own vast tongue.
My level of self-responsibility is
almost restrictive.
Shit, yeah. Yeah. I remember, my marriage was a
look at that relationship to receiving, right?
Say it again. Refocus.
Like that.
I see. Like just allowing myself to receive the coins.
Right. And like when does self-responsibility become restrictive? And when does that keep you from receiving? Mm-hmm. When does that shift you into an egoic position of it's my responsibility and I'm making things happen, rather than being responsible for what is happening?
Well, and like, it's the energy of it. Like, it's totally to be like that bigger energy of, I create in the world, but like the breath has to be free, even as I.
Yeah. Peony vibes.
Peony vibes.
Peony vibes. It all comes back to peony.
It all comes back to the peony. I'm like, I'm going to go make myself some really pretty peony logo after this.
I did that. Actually, my logo is a hexagon with a peony and a bee inside.
Oh, I saw the bee. I didn't see the peony part.
It's a very faint line drawing. So it's just like hanging out there in the back like a shadow.
Yum.
Like a fragrance. So your first hexagram.
Mm-hmm.
So how and why am I holding myself back from receiving? And your first hexagram is 28, collapsing. So there's this, so there's space for discernment between feminine receptivity and collapse. Does that feel like something, a space for you?
Well, that would be when peony's head tips over.
Yeah.
It doesn't have enough support.
Yeah.
I have called in, it feels like I've called in, so my energy work is around stories. So with a story that I don't have enough support, then it doesn't matter how much support I call it. And if I have a story I don't have enough support, it will never be enough support.
Ding, ding. Ta-da. And scene. Yep. Ooh.
And then that comes to, okay, so I'm just like connecting. I like seeing like this, how we cycle circle things. So seeing, I was an only child, and I was bullied as a kid, and I didn't know how to fit in. I didn't really understand kids. And so I experienced myself as alone. My parents didn't really understand how to help. I didn't have like a magical, aunt figure or like my mom was fighting with my grandparents all the time. So that didn't sort of feel like I could rest there. Okay. So what's occurring to me is there's a point where even if the peony tips over, she still gets to rest in the earth. And then once I have that trust that at some point I am held, then I get to choose more of where that is.
Yeah, sometimes that fear of collapse brings collapse because you start to embody that vertigo.
As Byron Katie says, but only 100% of the time.
Yeah. I love her.
Sometimes I have to hold myself back from having that quip like 10 times a day.
Yeah, only 100%.
I'm such a child when it comes to my pleasures. Like, I don't mind. My daughter's afraid of earworms. Do you know that saying for like a
yeah.
Because her dad hates it. And I'm like, I don't care. It's a great song.
Yeah, exactly. A fear of earworms. That's funny, actually. Means it's a good tune. Yeah. So Hexagon 20 is lake over wind. And it's usually a little handier when the wind is over the lake. Then you know what I mean?
Is that like a current then?
So this is like an unstable situation.
Yeah.
So that which is constructed is collapsing, including but not limited to your sense of self. Like a dog in a dollhouse, you're right size, but wrong for this space. What in the structure of your life right now is warping under the emerging weight of you? As you expand, who or what can no longer hold you? Critical mass has been reached. The old structure is collapsing. Primal forces are being restored. There's no time to determine if this is good or bad. There's just time to get the fuck out from under the collapsing roof. This is not your home. You carry that with you like a cell in the shell of the world turtle. Is that anxiety you feel, or are you just resisting the impulse to move? I mean, safety is overrated, and that surge is a gift. Open it now. Swarm off like bees leaving an old hive. Don't look back. You have everything you need and then some. Use your resources to build a better house, a home that endures rather than collapses. Are you hiding what is yours to hold on the roof, thinking no one will see it up there? That will bring collapse within and without, above and below. The roof is a terrible hiding place. It can be seen for miles, much like your behavior now. Have you misplaced your sincerity? While you're up on the roof trying to hide things, take in the broader view. Reconsider your actions. Are you bringing the house down? Do people think you're too much? Has that caused you to toss parts of yourself at someone else like a ragged hot potato because you can't hold them? Hold that potato. It's your responsibility. Feel the burn. Don't toss all that energy away from you because it's uncomfortable. Go somewhere you can have the space to move with it. Sing and wail and moan on all fours with it until you develop the nervous system capacity to hold your whole self. Feel reality collapsing. It will form again in a minute. Relax. If you feel you can brace the ridgepole and prevent the impending collapse, fine, do that. But are you doing it because it's expected of you or because it's yours to do? Other people may not believe your warnings that the roof is about to cave in. This is a situation where you may have to stand alone. This is a situation with a life of its own, and its momentum can't be stopped. No need to panic. Just get ahead of the momentum of collapse and let it take you out the door. What you thought was real is on its way out, like you.
Mm-hmm.
So this is about like just like noticing that sense and letting that momentum, knowing when you feel that momentum of collapse and letting it actually carry you forward in a way like toward receptivity rather than collapse.
Yeah. And the part that really struck me that I wouldn't mind just checking in with you about is the hot potato.
Mm-hmm.
So my primary marketing is posting online. My primary sales is people who have interacted with me personally.
Oh, interesting.
Hashtag COVID, hashtag, I don't know. It's working for other people to post online and have people come on their DMs, want to work with them. And I feel very discerning about a lot of things, but the hot potato energy of posting. So writing has become like I love it. Like I do it like it's my ritual in the morning. But then when I'm not feeling or getting impact, or I get out of my lane when I see how my writing is received. And then I start to wind towards frustration. Maybe this is like the wind maybe this is the wind you're talking about. And then I'll just write stuff and I'll have the energy of, not like, fuck it, I'll do this, feels good to me, but I'll have like, fuck it, what does it matter? I'll just post this, who cares? Doesn't matter anyway. And my desire for the house is me experiencing me, not me abandoning me to do the thing.
Right. So how does that play out? I think this thing of people who experience you and are in your presence being receptive and coming closer versus the more disembodied posting things is interesting in relationship to the hot potato, because what pieces of you are going into the writing that are not, what pieces of your felt presence are not going into the writing? How are you using the writing? And is that in this attitude changes, is that like, does the writing end up being just for you to sort something out, or have you sorted through it and metabolized it enough that it does serve? Because I personally find a big difference between posts where it's just me like working something out versus me sharing something that I've metabolized sufficiently to be of service.
Yeah. It feels very discerning. The post yesterday that went well was definitely metabolized and in surface.
It's almost always the case, I find. Because it shows what you do, how you work with yourself, and then how you will work with others. So they get to feel you more. People get to feel you and what your process is like, and how you can guide them toward their own metabolization process, how you can walk them through that bewilderness, so to speak.
Yeah. So even if I'm sharing, I'll pick that up, the bewilderness, to have awareness of how I'm holding myself through the bewilderness.
Exactly.
Such a, maybe that's when it gets to be a book of poetry, but it's such a pull to, yeah, maybe it is a spilling.
Right. Is a post leaky or directed? Like is the hose held so it can water the garden of all the people? Or is it just like
friendly gasoline?
Or is it exactly? And I think, that's a tricky spot because it's like, yeah, you want to show up in that full vulnerability, but like for myself, like I will show up in that mess, but like there is always that grandmother witness for me. Like there's always that grandmother's heart watching the wily toddler do the dumb shit. Mm-hmm. And so I try to let her write the post. Mm. I used to teach memoir, and there's this wonderful book by Vivian Gornick about memoir. It's called The Situation and the Story, which is actually also the heart of my coaching. And it's, even though it's a book about memoir, I feel like all coaches should read it because it is about that witness consciousness, that wise author who's writing the memoir that will be of value to others, and the protagonist persona who's still completely embodied in the story. But the author already understands the value of the story. The author has metabolized the story.
Yeah. What was her last name?
Gornick, Gornick. Yeah, it was funny. I was talking to somebody recently about like, how did you shift from teaching memoir to coaching? I was like, it was seamless. It's the same thing, except people don't want to write a book. It's making sense of your experience.
Yeah.
And like understanding the value in your experience, no matter the experience.
Something you're so amazing at is that sharing. And I sometimes get on a soapbox and I start telling instead of sharing. And I get grumpy and I get out of my own lane when I see other people telling and everyone's like worshiping them. And I'm like, don't you see how you're being manipulated? Don't you see how they're saying, and of course I'm doing this from this thing, or I'm not doing it from this thing. So that's why it's wonderful. And I'm like, you're totally doing the thing that you're saying you're not doing. And I get really grumpy.
Exactly. I used to get grumpy about that. And then I was like, wow. So what is this thing of like establishing? I think for a while, I wanted to establish my authority. And I shifted away from that to simply trusting my transmission. That like that. And again, that comes back to the peony. The peony is my avatar.
Yeah.
In all things. Like I trust that over time, the truth of that essence, that fragrance, that rootedness, that perennial nature where it goes away and it comes back. It looks like there's no peony there and then it's there again. Like trusting the flux and the cycles of that over time, that's what abides. So in my experience of people who assert that authority and expound rather than express wisdom, that is short-lived and ends up bringing more harm than good. And that's not part of my compass. And I trust that. And I know that about myself. And is that always a great business plan? Yeah. Can you drum up a lot of clients by igniting people's trauma and then telling them you'll help it? I bet you can. I've seen it.
Seeing it.
Been in it.
Been in those. Like, this is not about trauma. This is not about this. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, it is. That's actually exactly what's being enacted here.
You're saying you're in service to this other thing, and it's definitely not this thing. I'm like, except it's like written
you can feel you. And again, it's like a fragrance. You can smell it.
But then lots of people, is it like, well, I guess we have to all have our own reality. I'm like, are the emperor's clothes happening here? Because people are like, oh, thank God you just expressed that truth. Oh, that hit home. Oh, that's landing. I'm like,
yeah,
which part? I get
right.
anyway. And then I'm like, do I need to do more of that? Do I need, right, here's the thing, right? Sell them what they want, give them what they need. Should I do more of that so that they'll get in the door and then we can do the work? And I'm like, no, thank you.
I've had that conversation with myself too. I have.
Because the human brain will meet you where it is, and the reason that it needs our coaching is part of what's holding them back from seeing that we're the coaching that it needs.
Well, where I've come to on this is that I am a plumber, and I go and I remove hairballs, and that's what I do. I don't put the hairballs in, I take the hairballs out. My goal is to not give people anything. That's my service, to take things away, and just to clear the pipe that is already and has always already been yours, So it's like not going to the collapse and not trying to and I think this actually, like, this thing of like, okay, do I just go in there and start asserting authority? I could. Should I start like selling to pain instead of selling to freedom, selling to joy? It's a tougher sell because people don't believe in it. People really believe in their pain. People don't believe that they're already free. So it's like, okay, so how the old structure is collapsing. And that's partly this game A structure where there are winners and losers. And we each have a choice whether we're going to model our business model on game A or game B, in which the objective is to keep playing and to keep emerging and to keep evolving. And as hard as it is, sometimes I cannot let my business model be game A because that will be completely out of alignment with who I am and what I serve. So it's not about me asserting my authority. It's about me being responsible for what comes through me without ever for a second believing that it's me or mine. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
And so that's part of like, if you're coming, that's why I kind of wanted to take the business piece out of your question and just let it be more general about receiving overall.
Okay, yeah, let's go back to that. I've gotten a bit
like,
narrow on
what is, how and why am I holding myself back from receiving? And it's like allowing this game A structure to collapse and just getting the fuck out of the way of it. So the other people who are asserting authority and selling to pain and trauma bonding and then saying they're not, doing all these different manipulations, and you see them making a lot of money and they're all like, I'm on a yacht, I'm on a this and da, da, da. Like, leave them to that, because that is the structure that is collapsing. A house built on hubris will always fall down. There's thousands of years of myth that reiterate that. So I don't want to build my house on that foundation. I want to build my house on that foundation of love and emergence and ecology and eros. Partly because that's true to my design. And all that 3-5 trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. This is out of keeping with what everyone else is doing. That heretical line. I have that heretical line too. And so that heretical line is expensive until it's not.
Yeah. It's funny though.
And you and I, friend, are coming to the point where it's no longer expensive, where we have paid for it.
Yeah, yeah.
So trusting that. Exactly. That heretical line is paid off.
Yeah. What's funny though, that and tell me if like I'm getting us off topic, but what's so interesting as I think about your posts is you don't sell much at all.
Oh, I always have a tag at the end that says what my offer is.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not. I don't want people that I have to sell to. I want people who are following resonance because they're the people whose whole fucking deal I can change. I can work with them and get that stuff out, get the stuff that's holding them back out. And will they hate me during it? Yeah. Will they resist? Like, sure, all that stuff. I'm available for villainization and all that stuff. Like, that's part of the gig. I can only tell you what my experience is, how I work with myself, and getting back to that thing of like that it has been metabolized and here is how I metabolized it. And so this is how I will also work with you.
Yeah. I have a little girl heart.
Yeah.
That's not trusting the grandmother, not trusting that it's learned, not trusting that I can share the work. She thinks that's hard.
So give the grandmother more power.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, like I wrote a post a couple of weeks ago about after I was raped, and it took me a week to write that because I had to titrate. I had to write a little bit and then go walk for 5 miles and then come back and write a little bit and walk for 5 miles. Write 10,000 words and then narrow it to 1,000. You know, like let that experience unfurl and then find what's the piece that's valuable for others here. Where is the map of the alchemy? Where's the alchemical formula inside this experience? And until I'm clear that I am in full compassion of every step on that formula and in compassion for myself in that experience, then I can't write that yet. Because people will also feel that. And that's part of what I provide in a container is like that whatever chemical reaction happens, whether you come in your rage and your sorrow and your grief, whatever, like, yeah, that's all already in this formula. So I understand that is part of the process. So that's welcome here. I mean, I had a male client come in for a one-on-one that whipped his dick out. I just sat there. I was like, nothing. He got nothing. do you know what I mean? So it's like, yes, and you know what I mean? Like the things that I share of my life are not because I think my life is the most important thing, but like that yes, and is available no matter what the fuck you show up with. And I think that's what makes a good sales post without selling, because it's about resonance, not selling. It's not, I mean, yes, it's fundamentally transactional, but it's also fundamentally feminine. It's also fundamentally magnetic, not hooky.
Yeah.
So hang on, let me read your trait. You have three changing lines here. So one at line 3. Okay, so here's the thing. Yeah. So, okay, line 3, birch makes a terrible roof beam. It's bright and pretty, but it rots quickly. Did you choose birch for your roof beam? Have you been in a relationship with someone like this? Or did you get yourself into a situation where you are the birch beam and can't hold up to the task at hand? Have you buckled under the pressure? Were you the wrong person for the job? There's very little to be done in this situation, but to leave it behind. There's no way to brace the roof. It's sagging, and it's only a matter of time before the collapse is total. Don't assume you can will this situation into stability. You can't. You can't keep doing what you've been doing. It has to change right now. That's such a bitch slap of a line.
I don't mind, but I don't see. I can't see the birch roof for the trees. I can't keep not making enough money. That's true. I can't.
But is that
much more than I'm doing?
But hang on, is that frame the birch beam?
No, that's why I'm like trying to riff.
Yeah.
What is the birch beam?
Well, maybe it's that frame that you're making it about the money instead of about the resonance and about bringing the grandmother in. That you're putting the money in the front and then coming back to, I don't trust the grandmother. So you're putting the wily kid who wants the money in the front and not trusting the grandmother, where the grandmother is sitting on a treasure chest. So if you give her more power,
I guess
get her treasure.
I'm feeling a little disheartened because I feel like I've been trying. I've been I thought I was listening to the grandmother. I thought that I'm listening to my wisdom. I thought I was listening to higher,
So let's look at these other transforming lines. Line 5. The old willow blossoms once more, but it nearly kills her. Sometimes even a fruitless endeavor has its place. Not everything need be productive. Some things exist for the experience of their existence. Do we wish to fruit, or is flowering plenty? Think of the benefit to bees, to aesthetics. Not all energy need become matter. It's hard for it to move through the world when it is. Being is plenty. This is not to ignore physical realities, as they are what form the basis of life on earth. So it's not to ignore the money piece. But it's also not to prioritize the money piece. So this, in the traditional translations, like line 5, is about an older woman who takes a young husband and that the relationship produces no children.
Yeah.
So it's about not everything need be productive.
Yeah.
This focus on the money, I can definitely understand, because that can be a primal panic. But that primal panic is what will bring the clench on allowing the aesthetic to unfold.
Yeah, it's more ego for me. The money, there always ends up being enough money in the bank. It just sort of works out. But I feel that I want to check the box.
So how much is it is just competitiveness? All right. So line 6, you're in over your head. What you're attempting is beyond your current capacity. Soften and float. Then it may be possible to swim out of the sinkhole. It's possible that you'll learn as you go. It's also possible you will just fuck all this up beyond your wildest imagining and drown flailing. You are definitely throwing yourself in the path of danger. You might as well do it confidently if you're going to do it. How much do you really want this? How deeply do you feel called to do it? Because, it's a real crapshoot. Could be you were destined to be a martyr all along. Is that so? At least make sure your motives are generous and pure, as opposed to, just competitive. And that should redeem the potential failure somewhat. Own your own shit with absolute courage. If you don't, it's going to hurt. Expand or die. Ooh. Yeah. Right. So it is what are your, that line is all about okay, so this thing is collapsing.
Yeah.
What is your part in this collapse? What are your motives? And are you looking at your part in this collapse? What are the motives under the motives?
I feel like I've done that my whole life.
Well, so this goes at before you said this goes into hexagram 63, which is balance. By the time balance arrives, it's already ripening into something else. When balance arrives, love it. When balance departs, love it. Completing completion is complete. Balance is the still point between phases. There's more to come. There always is. Everything is as it should be. Everything is in its place. And so what you're saying is like, there is actually always enough money in the bank. I am looking at other people. I am comparing myself. I am coming from that motivation as well. That's not really of service to my clients. And if I'm doing that or trying to do what somebody else is doing, or like feeling superior to what somebody else is doing, that's not really serving my clients either. Like that's the kind of motivations where it's like, own your shit with absolute courage, expand or die. Homeostasis is impermanent. Our bodies get hungry again. We are satisfied in the morning and starving in the afternoon. Coffee isn't the perfect temperature for long. We don't stay in that sweet spot between comfort and desire in our romantic partnerships forever. Something else is always emerging. Growth is dynamic. Entropy is on its way, but chaos can be fun. If you're not afraid of change, this moment of balance at the tipping point can be held lightly. Gravity is already tugging at this moment like a toddler at her mother's skirt. What we grab at most fiercely is what we can't hold. Emergence gotta emerge or else it would stagnate. Balance is a loss of dynamism. In its perfection, it's a little death. You don't need to future fuck yourself right now by speculating on exactly which direction the Jenga tower might collapse. Just know that eventually it's going to collapse because that's how the game is played. That's why you like it. The collapse at the end is thrilling. I love how it's connecting with 28 here, even though you know it's coming. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Of course you do, because we've come all through all but one of these hexagrams together, and you're a goddamn hero now. You have the map. You're a regular cartographer, ready to draw the lines of the map on your body until they match the territory you live in. That's what this oracle is for. It's not a substitute for risk. It's not in lieu of failure. It's just a map to pair with your inner compass. It will never be the territory. It's not a place to hide. It's not meant to keep you from harm. Sometimes peril is required. Being a human is hard. Being a good human of noble and generous character is easier. Living fully is not without risk, but anything less is for cowards. Don't be a coward. We have too many already. There is a sense of orgasmic completion here. Le petit mort, the slender sadness that follows resolution. We can cry about this, but we just came pretty hard and that felt amazing, so better to roll with the tides. Revel in the sweetness of the denouement, the post-coital cuddle, the forehead-to-forehead nap where you wake up an hour later just where you dropped off. Maintain tenderness toward all states. There is not one state of being better than another. The magic words to end all suffering are, I don't need this to be different. I might want it to be different, but how much am I really willing to suffer for that preference? Today's sex and pancakes could be tomorrow's betrayal or next year's wedding. Knowing would ruin everything. So would redemption. So that's the second to last hexagram, and the last hexagram is threshold. So from this point of balance, one just moves into another threshold. So balance emerges from the reversals. Of course, the collapse comes.
Yeah. And the Jenga tower is a game, not an end of the world.
Exactly. And that's why you like it, because the thing falls down at the end and it's fucking exciting. And then you build it back up and you play more with people you love. Game B, baby.
Game B, baby. Felt like we had a little like speed vibe.
Yeah. You know? So like what is holding you back from receiving? What in light of everything we just talked about, how do you see your question framed now?
I see it as the peony half unbloomed. It's funny because it was sort of what I'd had a different flavor of this thought this morning. I'd written sort of 4.5 posts this morning, and normally I just sort of edit down to, I pick one or something. I was like, what if I just shared? What if I didn't? I mean, there's a balance here too, right? Like, to be aware of if the grandmother is in the driver's seat.
Yes,
for sure, absolutely. And there's also like just a free willingness to be seen, to be messy.
Yeah, the toddler is fun. It's just a matter of you noticing who's driving. Noticing, yeah,
yeah, and what the energy is that's driving. Is it me trying to protect the toddler? Because those grandmas aren't really so wise and fun. Mm-hmm. They're really uptight and annoying. Mm-hmm. Careful.
No helicopter grandmas. Papa. No, this grandma just comes and puts a Band-Aid on and gives you a sandwich after you scraped your knee, but she's not going to stop you from scraping your knee.
She's not going to stop you from scraping your knee. So the trust of blooming bigger. Exploring the edge of blooming bigger.
And trust that the structure will be revealed as the bloom opens, that you don't have to know ahead of time.
Yeah. I stop protecting myself from falling. It's funny because this feels like part of my path of life, and I feel like I keep expanding my edges of being willing to be bigger than I ever thought possible or allowed or comfortable, or like I have a story of myself being willing to be in the discomfort. Going on stage is scary.
Yeah.
Like it is you. It is you expressing the things, and they clap or they don't clap.
And can you not worry about that?
Can I not worry about that?
I mean, this piece that you're saying about the people who encounter you in person tend to become clients more than people online. Like, does that make you want to do more lives, and just so your embodied presence can be felt more?
Yeah.
Because that can be really helpful.
Yeah. So I started doing a weekly live last
week.
Oh,
awesome. Oh, great.
Yeah. Yeah. And my partner and I are starting a YouTube channel of reaction videos to Trash TV. He's a relationship coach, and we just love talking about relationships.
Oh my God, I would totally watch you guys watch Love is Blind. It's my favorite.
That's our first one.
Yeah. Is it? Yes.
Season 2 for starters.
Great. That's awesome.
Yeah, and what we found, so we've only recorded our first one. He has to do some editing, but then we like stepped away. But then we need to do like the show, and then every single one we're gonna like go get a drink or a coffee or whatever, and then do the after show, because then we talk for another hour.
The after shows are the greatest. Oh my God, yeah. Oh, what's his name? Oh God, what was his name? The Indian guy. The Indian guy. Shake in that reunion show was just like, wow.
Shake broke Matt's heart. Because there was a point where he looked like it felt like he was on the brink of,
and then he got vertigo and pulled himself all the way back.
Actually, worse than maybe.
Double down.
His mom was so awesome.
I know.
She's like, honey, you're sucking.
Oh God. Yeah, that show was so fun.
We're having like a whole thing on apologies. The level of shitty apologies was epic. And so we analyze everybody's apologies, and then we talk about what a real apology is and like all the things. It's really
wow. I felt like Iana's husband, what's his name again?
Jarrett.
Yeah, Jarrett. I felt like his apologies felt very sincere. Like about the whole thing with Mallory. Like he felt sincere to me. No. Okay.
I probably won't analyze that one, because to me that's the level of lying.
Okay.
Like
Aw.
so a really good liar in my books is able to feel the energy of what the desire is in the other
Outcome. Yeah.
person
Okay.
and
Oof.
express from that place.
Ooh. Ooh, that's the worst though. That's the grossest. That's the
Well,
most
it's scary
damaging.
because
Yeah.
then we felt we could trust them because the energy
Yeah.
felt right.
Oh.
And that's why Shane was so fascinating and mysterious, because he really believed himself.
100%.
He had no
There's
exterior.
there's really no armor. Like he had no way of obscure, like that is not, he's not a manipulative person, because like I mean, even if he tried, you're just like, wow, it's so
Well, he's
incredibly
manipulative like a 4-year-old.
right, like a toddler. So if it's completely easy to see,
That's right. Toddlers can still manipulate for the cookie. Oh, yes, they can.
They can try.
Like, it's that playing with. So is it playing or is it manipulating?
Exactly. Like, what are you wearing, Shayna? Like, oh my God. Like, oh God. Oh, I enjoyed the shit out of that show. Well, thank you for coming on. It was so nice to get to connect with you. Like, I just love everything that I see of yours. And it was fun because like this round of podcasts, I was like, I'm just going to like invite people that I really like see, whose stuff I see and just want to talk to,
I'm so glad you reached out and that and that it really was you. I was a bit nervous.
Oh yeah. I know, it's so weird on there sometimes. Yeah.
Well, and you can't, like, people do hack
stuff. Yeah.
This was gorgeous, and I feel so honored to have had this direct experience of the I Ching. You've given me such a gift, both of awareness and of this modality. I've been exploring the gene keys and human design, of course, and I love it. I love that it's chaos and beauty embodied. It's
yes.
so beautiful.
Thank you so much for joining for the Fuck Suffering with me, Ray Hance podcast today. I hope you enjoyed yourself. If you would like a personal reading like I do for people on the podcast, come to rayhance.com, REIHANCE.com, and go to the Oracle of Emergence page. If you'd like the book I use on this podcast, it's called Oracle of Emergence, an evolutionary I Ching, and that's available on Amazon. If you're interested in a one-on-one session, pocket coaching, one of my Fuck Suffering practice groups, or a one-day boundaries and belonging session, you can also come to the website. You can find me on Instagram, you can find me on the Facebook, and you can find me on my YouTube channel. I'm really all over the place these days. It's my great pleasure to introduce people to the I Ching. And I hope you develop your own relationship with it. And I hope you come back and listen again and subscribe, rate, and review so that this baby podcast can find its way in the world. Thank you so much for listening. See you next week.